Come, Nerevar, friend or traitor, and hear the new debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. The topic for tonight: what is the worst Resident Evil movie adaptation? Biden will present his nomination as Will Trump.
My nomination for the worst Resident Evil adaptation is the entirety of Paul W.S. Anderson's 6-film series. It is a bastardized sack of cheeseballs that favors action over horror. Legacy characters from the games are sidelined for some Mary Sue, who starts off as a regular person and progresses into a seemingly immune superhuman who's able to bond with the T-virus. The films don't even follow their own continuity. For each sequel, past events are retconned or contradicted, and certain characters disappear and reappear 1 or 2 movies apart. The characters from the games barely even act like their counterparts, aside from Wesker, kind of. Everyone else is either part of some resistance or a survivor convoy. Because of the unfortunate box office success of the film series, its influence has noticeably rubbed off on the games from Resident Evil 4 to 6. The final chapter is even more insulting, retconning the Red Queen into one of Alice's allies, as well as the reason why the T-virus was created and convoluting the Hive from the first movie. What they needed to do was just use the late George Romero's screenplay, and these travesties would have been subverted. The film series did more harm than good, and will be remembered as the longest wet fart of the overall franchise.
My nomination is Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. The film is an even bigger disgrace to the games than all of the Alice movies combined. What Paul W.S. Anderson bastardized of the franchise in 6 movies, Johannes Roberts managed to do it with just 1. It's apparent that the filmmakers were more interested in adapting the aesthetics of Resident Evil 2 Remake instead of retelling the first game, and it shows. Because the first 2 games are joined together with Scotch tape and Elmer's glue, most of the key characters from the originals and the entirety of Resident Evil 3 are absent. Then again, seeing how they handled the plots and characters that did make it, it's probably for the best. The dialogue is more horrifying than Nemesis and the Basement Baby of House Beneviento combined. The tone awkwardly jumps back and forth between scary and comedic. The overall story is jarring and convoluted, and not only do the characters act much less like in the games than in the Anderson movies, most of them don't even look like they do in the games. As my top favorite characters of the games are Leon and Jill, I've never felt a greater betrayal. Jill's a gun-nut sociopath who would give Wayne LaPierre a run for his money and has the hots for Wesker. The kind of woman who'd call herself quirky after pissing on the vegetables at Whole Foods. Chris and Claire are estranged siblings who were given a shoehorned connection to Umbrella through William Birkin at the orphanage. By the way, big ups to Neil McDonough for playing 2 video game characters in a row without looking anything like them. Wesker's a buzz-cut schmuck with no ties to Umbrella and ditches stars because money. He doesn't even get his sunglasses until a post-credits scene with Ada Wong. Chief Irons is a Journey fan whose in-game motivation is relegated to background dialogue with Claire. Lisa Trevor and the Ashford twins are thrown in for more lazy fan service. And saving the worst for last, Leon Scott Kennedy, the naive rookie cop who wants to help people and do the right thing. Top of his class in the police academy. Oozing with charisma to the point where in Resident Evil 4, the president's daughter wanted to do some overtime with him. Hell, I'd even let him run a train on Ivanka. He's that suave. Has the kind of wit harder to break than a boulder in a live volcano. And all-around Chad of the franchise, reduced to the Gomer pile of the RPD in this movie. The only thing more scary than the film ever could be is Roberts wanting to adapt Resident Evil 4 for the next movie. And I swear on Lady Dom, a Tresk's mommy milkers, that if he ever touches that game, I will rain enough hellfire to make Obama's drone strikes look like rocks from a slingshot. This movie is the worst video game movies in the history of video game movies.
Like it or not, Trump: Welcome to Raccoon City is the closest we'll ever get to a Resident Evil movie that retells any story from the games. It's also a change of pace from the same boring action movies starring the director's trophy wife.
I know your dementia's been getting worse and worse, but do you expect me to believe that Welcome to Raccoon City holds that kind of merit over even Resident Evil Apocalypse, a movie that mainly adapted Resident Evil 3? Even Anderson's first Resident Evil movie was closer to the first game with just the basic premise.
Remind us of the premise of the first game.
An elite squad moves into a mansion that happens to be an entrance to a secret underground laboratory where an outbreak occurred. It's also revealed that a giant medical corporation has been experimenting with bioweapons.
Yeah, with none of the main characters from the games other than William Birkin with a voiceover cameo, as well as none of the bigger details in the story of the first game.
Yeah, I remember those parts in the first game where Jill nearly grazed Wesker while shooting at a crow, and where Wesker plays Moonlight Sonata with the help of a Palm Pilot. Remember those parts in the game where Richard gets eaten by cancer patient zombies, and where Zombie Brad crashes the helicopter into the mansion? And how about those parts in the second game where Leon sleeps through an exploding truck in front of the RPD? Or that part where Chief Irons has Any Way You Want It blasting in his car?
How about the part in the first game where Alice does a wall kick on a Cerberus, and where the liquors were made with injecting the T-virus into white rabbits?
You mean the part in the second game where Claire saves Chief Irons from a terrible CGI dog with a fire extinguisher, which is then followed up by Leon telling her to drop her gun?
I bet you would have liked Welcome to Raccoon City more if they had the characters using sawn-off shotguns loaded with coins while taking on Plagas zombies.
You must have been fuming when they didn't adapt the backstory of Claire and Lisa Trevor being best friends from the first game. You know, Lisa Trevor, the deformed orphan kid in Raccoon City Orphanage, and not an experiment in the underground lab along with her mother after Umbrella killed her father?
Not as much as you must have been when they didn't have characters like Jill, Claire, and Ada needing to be saved by Super T-Virus Woman.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just watching the cutscene from the first game where Chief Irons is giving Wesker tips on how to get laid through Planet Hollywood and Journey music.
I'm sorry, too. I was reminiscing about those Resident Evil games set in a Mad Max-like post-apocalypse setting, except for places like Alaska, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C.
At least the Anderson movies had Tyrant and Nemesis.
Oh, you mean the ultimate failure from Extinction?
As opposed to that 7th-gen console-looking eyeball monster, the CG movies literally looked better than that monstrosity.
Speaking of which, you checking out Death Island when it comes out?
You bet. I'm pumped to finally see Leon and Jill on screen together where it's not just like, hi, Leon, I'm Jill. Hi, Jill, I'm Leon.
And the CG movies are actually within the timeline of the games. If there's one thing we can agree on, they are superior to the live-action movies.
Yeah, even if Vendetta got goofy with that Naked Gun 2 gunfight on the roof between Chris and Arius.
And Leon going full John Wick on the zombies.
I told you, Leon's an absolute Chad. He could have also easily taken on those zombies with just a pencil.
A fucking pencil.
I wish George Romero's script got made into a movie.
Yeah, me too.
Now, what about the Resident Evil Netflix series?
What Netflix series?
That doesn't exist.